it's Jennifer with Astro T Astrology. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the upcoming eclipse season. I just wanted to give a little prequel and talk about what makes an eclipse and not just a new moon or full moon or something like that. What makes it different? So the reason that this upcoming, it's a new moon that is coming up on the 20th of April, so next week. It's about 12:24 a.m. I think it's going to be exact. What makes this an eclipse? So we're entering in what is called eclipse season. What makes these eclipses, and not just the new moons, full moons, is where the nodes are. So I think we've talked about the nodes before. I've mentioned them on other videos, but today we're going to get a little more in depth into what the nodes mean, and then we'll make another video coming up on the actual eclipse itself. So the nodes in your chart are going to look something like this. So this is the north node, and this, well, they look exactly the same, but that would be the south node. So what, if you're looking at your chart and you only see this one, it's because most charts, when you run them through an app or a website or something like that, it will only show, say, the north node. So let's say the north node is here. So you automatically know the south node is going to be here. They're polar opposites to each other. So if you're only seeing one, the other one directly opposite, the exact same degree. They're just, so what they are, that there are 2 points that orbit the moon. They intersect the ecliptic, and what the ecliptic is the invisible line pretty much that the earth is on when it revolves around the sun. So they kind of go, and what they do is they're an ebb and a flow. So the north node is kind of the ebb, and the south is the flow. They increase and the decrease. So again, they are opposites, just like where they are on your chart. That's what they embody. So to give you a little bit of background on what they are, so pretty much they are the Rahu and Ketu. So Rahu is the north node, and Ketu is the south node. So Rahu and Ketu are a dragon. Rahu is the head of the dragon, and Ketu is the tail of the dragon. So when you think about this, the north node being Rahu, that's something that you're kind of, a lot of people look at it like something they're going towards, like something that you want to achieve in this life. And the tail is something that you're either leaving behind, or maybe it's your karma from a past life that you brought into this life, something that is your comfort zone, something that is your instinct that you have kind of grown, and that's your comfort zone, something that you're used to. But a lot of astrologers will say that Rahu is what you're trying to achieve and what you should achieve in this life, what your natal chart is telling you can achieve in this life. I kind of look at it a little bit differently. So, when you think about moving towards something, some of these things aren't always better for you. Sometimes they're not always, you're trying to achieve something greater, something bigger. So when you think about Rahu or the north node, it's you want something on a grander scale. You want more. You want to have a bigger, better life. You want to have bigger and better things. You want to have fame, popularity, money, like unlimited amounts of money. But sometimes these things don't always make you happy. So I look at it more of like that Rahu is like that what tempts you, that what kind of spurs you to go towards something because you want something. So it's kind of like a pull towards something, a desire, a need, where K2 and the South Node is more of like kind of the, keeping you under control. So you want to keep these at like, a level. So that's why we call it the ebb and flow. What's an inhale? It's the Rahu expanding of your lungs, the exhale of K2 exhaling and decreasing your lungs as you get rid of the air that you pulled in. So back to the eclipses. So the reason again that eclipses are eclipses and not just new moons and full moons are because of the proximity of these two nodes to the sun or the moon. So for instance, a new moon is a sun and moon conjunction. So the new moon is when they are going to come together. So they're going to come together. So it's a conjunction and it's called a new moon, and it's the start of the new lunar cycle. So this new moon is, and it's going to be in a close proximity to where the nodes are. So this new moon is going to be in the very last degree of Aries. It's called the anaretic degree. So it's going to be about here. So you know that the moon is going to be going over the sun, which makes it an eclipse. So then we have Rahu, which is right here in Taurus. So right now, Rahu and Ketu, or the North Node, South Node, are on the Taurus Scorpio axis. We'll get into a little of that and what that means on a mundane or global level, as opposed to how they show up in your chart. So every chart, you have every planet, you have the nodes at birth and where they are then. And then, we also have them going around the outside, which is happening now in the sky, and how that interaction will affect you. So, we have the sun-moon conjunction at the last degree of Aries, and this here. So the reason that makes it an eclipse is because they're very close to each other. They have to be within 17 degrees of each other. So the North or South Node has to be within 17 degrees of the sun or the moon. And if it is a full moon, that means that the sun is going to be opposite the moon, so they'll both be close to the nodes. So this is actually going to be very close, since the nodes are at 4 degrees and of Taurus, and the sun and moon is at 29. So it's going to be within 5 degrees of each other. So they're going to be really close. And so when you think about how they move too, so the sun and moon are here, and they're actually coming together, because right after the eclipse happens, because it is at the last degree, it's going to go into Taurus. The nodes actually move the opposite direction. So when you think about just the chart in general, the chart is actually moving this way in a clockwise direction. So when you say rising sign, it's it actually going up. So we have first, the first rising would be Aries, and then, if you're born a couple hours later, you'd hit Taurus, and so on and so forth. The planets all move in a counterclockwise direction. So they're going this way. The nodes move in a clockwise direction. I know that can get confusing, but if you think just the whole wheel and the whole chart and all the signs are moving clockwise, so are the nodes. Everything else, the planets and luminaries, are moving counterclockwise. So I hope that makes sense. I hope it's not too confusing. So moving on, we're going to talk about what the nodes mean in your chart, your natal chart, and then what they're going to mean kind of on a global scale. So again, they are the polar opposites. So we're going to start with Aries, and if you have them in the Aries Libra axis, that way. So Aries is about I am. When you think about I am, it's about me. It's so if your north node is in Aries, you are, what does that make you want? What are you desiring? What are you going towards in this life? So it could be about, maybe popularity, beauty, fame. It's about you and having, attention on you, and kind of almost, and that's your increase, the increase that you're desiring, or that is tempting you, and that is just like, that apple in the Garden of Eden that's just tempting you. That is the I am. So I want this about me. So when you want to keep a little bit more balanced, it's going to go back to, we are, or I balance, which is in Libra. So then we move on, and the second would be in Taurus. Taurus is I have. It's the things that you accumulate. It's what you want. I want good food. I want lots of beautiful things. I want money. So when you want too much of something, it's gluttonous. It's too much good food could make you be overweight. Too much buying and having nice things could make you have less money. Wanting more money could make you, just too focused on one thing, like money, and you kind of put everything else to the background. So the opposite, that's going to be the nice, balance, where the south node balances it out, is in Scorpio, which is I wish. Scorpio is that deep feeling, my desires, and kind of keeping things under control, and more inner focused than on the materialistic. So that, when you keep that balance, this is just, the ebb and flow, the inhale and exhale of the nodes. So then if you have the north node on Gemini, for instance, or in Gemini, that is, I think, that's wanting to have all the information that you can get. I want to, learn. I want to know everything I can about this subject. So you immerse yourself maybe a little bit too much into something, and you kind of, ignore everything else. You want to, again, with the south node, you want to be able to balance that. So what is opposite of Gemini? It's Sagittarius. And instead of knowing and getting all the details, Sagittarius is more about I see. So it's a kind of an unseen, almost, understanding of things. That's why it has to do with religion and spirituality. So instead of, I want to know everything I can about this, and I want to know the details, and this and that, the opposite would be the Sagittarius, which is going to balance you out, and you're going to, just have that the understanding and that faith that, maybe a Gemini wouldn't have, because it's more of like I would see a Gemini is more of like a scientist, where Sagittarius is more of like a spiritual leader of some sort. So then we're going to move along to Cancer. So if you have it in Cancer, Cancer is I feel. You could be, too much emotions, too much, I want to take care of you. You could almost be like a martyr, where you're doing too much to try and just, I'm putting too much into my family, too much into my children, and not enough on myself. Well, if you look at the opposite, is Capricorn. Capricorn is about work and developing yourself and developing your reputation. So instead of just focus on, taking care of others and those emotions, needs, the counterbalance to that is the more work and structure related and seriousness, and like, okay, so we're going to be practical and not emotional. We're going to think with our heads, not with our hearts, and just kind of be, more like that. So you can almost see, how the opposite would happen when it changes to the north node there. So then we have Leo, and Leo is about I want, and I want. A lot of that is fame because the sun revolves around the earth revolves around the sun, all the planets revolve around the sun, so Leo wants everything revolved around them. You look at the opposite of Leo, that's Aquarius. Aquarius is it's the water bearer. It's helping people. So instead of everything being about you, it's about other people and helping the less fortunate. Then we move on to Virgo. Virgo is again, a sign like Mercury, which is similar to Gemini, so they want to know every detail. They might be even overcritical. They might be too much of a perfectionist. If you are going too much Rahu, you would try to achieve perfection in things that you make, things that you do in life, your looks perhaps. The opposite of that is Pisces, which is more of like a fantasy, and Pisces is I believe. So you believe that this is good enough, so I'm good. So you just need that little flow, so you're not too focused. So if you just kind of look at the opposites, now we went through half. Libra would be very focused on relationships, maybe not as much on yourself. Or partnerships. Scorpio might be a little too obsessive, a little too compulsive, a little too deep thinking, and which does cause the obsession. And this, Taurus will help balance that out. You could, with Sagittarius, become a little too much into your religion, a little too those Bible thumpers or whatever that might be a little too preachy and a little too, it's like, okay, calm down a little bit. So, let's, balance it out with a little bit of, actual concrete evidence. We have then Capricorn, throwing yourself maybe too much into work, being a little too obsessed with your reputation and who you are on the outside and what people perceive you, and not as much as who you are on the inside. Aquarius, maybe, again, you're focusing too much on helping others, where you're kind of leaving yourself. Maybe you're stretching yourself too thin. I giving my money all to charity, and I don't have anything for myself. And, tonight I'm just going to eat, ramen because I've given all my money to charity, and they're eating like kings. And then finally Pisces, you don't want to be too much in that fantasy realm. You have these dreams and big aspirations, and you want to be a little, have the south node practicality, bring the north node back down. So it's the ebb and flow, just kind of the back and forth. So I have a little fun kind of examples that I got together, and I thought they were very interesting, so I hope you do too. So these are some celebrity charts. I guess they're not really celebrities, but they're people that people know. So we talked about the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius. So somebody that I was looking at their charts, and two people, totally different people, have Gemini, so we're going to flip this around, Gemini in the 11th house, and then they have, oops, I moved that a little too much, they have Gemini in the 11th house. So if I have my North Node in Gemini, I know that I want to know everything about everything, and then my South Node, maybe I don't balance it out with things that I believe. So also when you're looking at the houses, okay, if it's in the 11th house, that's about, I want attention. I want tons of people around me, and I want to be popular and have friends and acquaintances and everyone to know me and know who I am. And then you have the South Node over here in the opposite, in the 5th, which is more, kind of, leaning on your own creativity, maybe, your children, that type of thing. So I found it pretty interesting. Actually, two polar, it can Now these can play out however. These are all just kind of a little spot in your chart that shows something that you can build towards. So these two people obviously build totally differently. So Donald Trump is one that has his North Node in Gemini in the 11th house, and the other person, and South Node, and then the other person would be Ted Bundy, the serial killer. So I found that pretty funny because they both, you know, if you think about anything you know about Ted Bundy, that he, you know, was very popular, he was very, you know, dynamic, he was, everyone, you know, even the police, when they had him in custody, they loved him. You know, Trump's another one that even if you hate him, you still want to know everything and what's going on, and he's on the news every day, even though he hasn't been president in a couple years, and is still, you know, he's out there, and everyone's still knowing everything and talking about him, and so I found that rather interesting. Now another one is somebody that has the North Node in Virgo, which would be, now my sign's all upside down here, so Virgo here, so practical. So that North Node in these two people is in the 10th house. So this is what they're striving for in in their, you know, they want to, you know, it's at the top of their chart. So that's what they aspire to. They aspire to be, you know, this person. So they're going to work and work and do the work and, you know, fine tune everything and, you know, make sure that they are going to achieve this. That would mean the South Node would be in Pisces. That would be down in the 4th house. So, you know, maybe they don't choose to see their families like other people see them. Maybe they choose to see them with a you know, rose-colored glasses. So these two people, one is Joe Biden, our current president. He worked and worked his whole life to be president. He was in the government his whole life and worked towards being, finally achieving right here at the top of his chart, in the 10th house, achieving what he strove for. Then you think about what's going on in his life, with his son and his, I guess his brother or something, that, you know, they're questioning their business dealings and whatnot, but he's, no, they didn't do any of that. You know, he chooses to see them in the light he wants to see them. So that's the Pisces, that's the ebb and flow right there. The other person that has that in their chart is John Wayne Gacy. So another serial killer. So can't be more opposite than an current or ex-president and, you know, serial killers. So John Wayne Gacy has, again, in his 10th house. Now they're similar in age, and that's kind of why they fell into the same house as all these examples. So we have he was somebody that, you know, wanted things a certain way. Most of the people that he killed were people he had, you know, fixing his house. He wanted to be the head of his, I think he was at a church, and he wanted to be, you know, he had moved up the ranks there, and then, you know, things went horribly wrong. His South Node was in Pisces, which is his family life. So his family, you know, it was kind of fake. You know, he was married, but in real life he was attracted to young boys and wanted to kill them. And, you know, but in his regular life he was married and had like this, you know, kind of a fake life, almost like another whole being, you know, someone that no one expected. So that's the way that one played out. So they play out very differently. Another one I found really interesting was David Koresh. If you know who he is, they have a big Netflix special. He's the head of the cult that was in Waco, Texas. The reason he came up is because of the new special. Plus, I remember when all that happened back in the day, and it was very compelling and very, you know, you were very drawn to it. You know, David Koresh had his North Node in his first house of himself. So he wanted to be the leader. He wanted to be the, and it was in Libra in his first house. So he, brought people together. He wanted to have people around him to spread his message. And then his South Node then would have been in Aries, so he didn't want to be alone. So he was getting away from, and that was in the 7th house. And so he didn't get married. He didn't have only one partner. He had multiple partners. He had multiple, he told people that they couldn't be with their wives anymore, and he was going to be with them. And so you see the way that this can play out. You can do it to your benefit and become president someday, or you could, well, in the worst case scenario, so you always think, my biggest aspiration, I'll be president one day, or my child will be president. The worst aspiration, okay, they're going to be a serial killer. So you can see the way that these polar opposites happen and the way you work with your nodes. And so I hope this made some sense to you. And I'd like to know where your nodes fall and kind of what your temptations are and what's going to bring you back down to earth and keep you from, trying too hard and going too far, but building so that you can achieve in life and have a good life. So I hope you like this video. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. We have some good videos coming up with the eclipse next week. And then we have Mercury going retrograde next week. So we have a lot of good ones coming up. So please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you be a part of this journey with me. Hit the little bell so you get notified of the upcoming videos. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.